Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio. This is your home for fair trade Bible study that is spiritually and socially sustainable. 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week. That's all we ask. Going through the Psalms verse by verse, and this week, part 2 of Psalm 136. I hope you join me all week long as we study the second half of this amazing psalm. So let's just jump right in here. Today, we're going to do verses 14 and 15. We're going to make our way all the way to verse 26 by the end of the week, but we're in the deliverance section. Now remember, we're following the pattern that we found in Psalm 135. In Psalm 135, we had the Lord's sovereignty described in creation, deliverance, and inheritance. And so in Psalm 136, because we're following that same pattern, we have creation described for us in verses 4 through 9. And of course, all of it is because His mercy is everlasting. So we are looking at His creation through the lens of His wonderful mercy. Then in 10 through 13, that was the end last week. We ended in 13 last week. We began the deliverance section, which today will finish in 14 and 15. And in that, we began with the Egyptians. Israel came out. He did this by a strong hand and a stretched out arm. He divided the Red Sea into parts, who caused Israel to pass through the midst of it. That's the first line of the first verse today, verse 14. So let me go ahead and read. This is my translation. And who caused Israel to pass through the midst of it, for His mercy is everlasting. He shook off Pharaoh and his army, for His mercy is everlasting. So He shook off Pharaoh, and Israel, however, they passed through. So we're in the Red Sea now. And you remember last week, at the end of last week's lessons, we stopped with verse 13. He divided the Red Sea into parts and then caused Israel to pass through it. So with the wall of water on one side and a wall of water on the other and a dry path in between, they crossed the Red Sea going all the way over. This was the hand of God. And so Pharaoh and his men, they had been hardened, and they came after Israel, and when they saw that they had passed through, they decided they could do the same thing, but not quite so fast. And then you have 15, it says, He shook off Pharaoh. This is the idea of, like, you know, if you have a piece of lint on your garment, you wipe it, you shake it off, you knock it from you. You know, that little action of the hand that's wiping, or when you're knocking it off, that little piece of lint, you're wiping it from you. Well, that's the idea. He's shaking off Pharaoh and his army. They're nothing. They're a pest to him. And so they go into the Red Sea. The Lord shakes them off. And into the Red Sea they go, and they never come out again. If you can go back to Exodus chapter 14, verse 22, and find the story of Israel passing through. And then in that same chapter, Exodus chapter 14, and verses 27 and 28, you find out that Pharaoh and his men decided they could do the same thing and went down into the Red Sea with their chariots. But the Lord took off the wheels of the chariots, so that the Bible says they drave them hard. I guess they were just dragging them along with the horses almost like a sled. But apparently it slowed them down, and then they realized that the Lord was fighting for Israel. So all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is buoyed on the theme of His mercy. So God in His mercy is protecting His people. God in His mercy is defeating the enemy. God in His mercy is showing Himself sovereign. God in His mercy is delivering His people from bondage. God in His mercy is doing all of this. In the Red Sea, He divides it. He causes Israel to pass through. He shakes off Pharaoh and his army in that same Red Sea. Join me tomorrow. We're going to begin the inheritance section, which will last for 2 days. We'll begin in verse 16 and go all the way through verse 21 on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.